Hello and welcome to From the Be All End, and this is the debrief after the Boxing Day clash at Turf Moor, which saw Burnley beaten 2-0 by Liverpool. I'm joined by Chris Bowden, Justin Connolly and Paul Woodhouse for this one. Woody, your impressions of that game?
It was shit, wasn't it, really? We had 2 minutes, obviously, opening up in the first half until they decided they were going to score after 5. Then we basically barely huffed and puffed for the rest of the first half. We're kind of lucky to keep ourselves to 1 at half time. And then Lord knows how we managed to get that spell in the second half of about 5 to 7 minutes where we missed a couple of gilt-edged chances once we'd brought JBG on, etc. And looked infinitely better for that with Odebear on the left. But, it was all rather depressing and all rather predictable, and seen it before, haven't we?
I don't know, actually. I mean, I thought the second half there was quite a lot to be encouraged by, but maybe I'm alone in that opinion. I don't know. Justin, what did you make of it?
No, I think I'm with you on that. I think I'm disappointed. I can't say I'm really disappointed with the performance. I'm disappointed with the result. I think it was kind of it was almost a carbon copy of the Fulham game in terms of how we were under pressure in the first half, and Trafford made quite a lot of good saves, but they were kind of regulation saves, the sort that you'd expect him to make, and we're still in the game at 1-0. We've limited them to that one goal. Second half, we've had a couple of good chances. Particularly Goodmanson's header, which he failed to get on target. I'm not sure about the one where Brun-Larsen burst through. I reckon that might have been ruled out with VAR because there were a couple of sort of dodgy challenges before that effort. But we should have got those on target, and if we had, you never know what might have happened. I just think it's another example of those fine margins in a game, isn't it, where one thing goes against you and another thing goes against you. You just sort of think, well, it's not going to be our day today. I'm not that disappointed with the performance. You've got to remember we're playing against a team who, with that 2-0 win, have gone top of the table. And I'm not 100% convinced they were that, that much, the difference between us in the table. I'm not sure they were that much better than us, to be honest.
I mean, I would say, I think it was probably our best performance against a Big Six team.
Yeah,
this
definitely.
Season,
Yeah.
I think it was better than the performances for sure in those early season defeats we had in that run of tough games. But the first half was. I'd agree with Woody's assessment on the first half, definitely. But the second half, there was a different look about us, and we didn't sit back in the same way we'd done in the first half and sort of invite Liverpool to come on to us. We got into them a bit more. I mean, we just didn't have enough punch in the final third. That's the way I think that what let us down, really. But Chris, what were your impressions?
Actually, I don't mind losing like that if that's the way. I mean, like say, albeit the first half, they got a bit of a battering, really. Albeit, in the first couple of minutes, Amdouni produces a turn. Much like Defoe against Hull, if you remember his debut goal, little spin and turn and he's away, makes the wrong choice. He's got options either side. And if you're going to go for goal, at least get your effort on target. And it goes miles wide. And a couple of minutes later, Juan Carroll scores his first goal from in 12 games, first from outside the area in about 4 years, apparently. He's. But it took the disallowed Harvey Elliott goal really to wake Burnley up. But
it did, didn't it?
Yeah, From then on, they got a bit of a reprieve there. But from then on, I thought they had Liverpool rattled. I thought that they've probably forced more errors at the back than you see Liverpool make in many a game. And like I say, the chance for Goodmanson's a great chance. For Brun-Larsen, I didn't really think he could do much else other than have a pot shot at goal from there, and tried his luck, didn't come off. But Odebear, scared him, down the left hand side in particular, second half, and they were just I said that was that second ball. All of a sudden, something sort of switched on in them, and they were winning the second ball. And that period of pressure deserved something from the game, really. And obviously, they nick a late second, and it's game over. But I thought they merited something from the game over the piece.
It's interesting you're saying about Odegaard there. On when he went on the left, he was like he'd been in. We've seen him before, but on the right hand side, he was pretty ineffective, wasn't he? Like, I mean, that seems to have been. If we're looking for learning points from it, I mean, it's surprising how much of a difference it makes to some players whether they play, which side they play on. But it certainly did with him. But the big debate point I've seen people already talking about online, and it came up as well after the Fulham game where Mike Trezor, where, you know, I wasn't particularly impressed by what he did at Fulham and thought it was justified to take him off as Kompany did. And then I was reading online some people saying he changed the game. Now, they were people at the ground, not me watching on TV. And sometimes you can be tricked by that, you know, where you're watching a game on TV and not appreciating what somebody's doing. So I tried to watch him a bit more closely today. And I've got to say, you know, I think he's one of these players who looks very nice on the ball. He's got like this really nice sort of balance and ease about him when he's on the ball. But his end product was next to nothing most of the time, I thought. You know, I mean, Justin, what were your impressions of Trezor?
I thought he was fairly anonymous and ineffective, wasn't he? I mean, when he got on the ball, he didn't really do much. I can't remember him creating anything. I mean, he was on corner duty as well a few times, and he seemed to have been coached by that
Josh Brownhill.
Yeah, he seems to have been coached by that set piece coach we've got to hit the first man every time he tried to get the ball in the box. But no, I agree with you. I was disappointed by his performance, and I was, you know, I was quite surprised to see him in the starting lineup for a start. But I think it was me last week who said I'd like to see him get a little bit of a run of starts just to get a bit of confidence up and see what he can do. I didn't see anything today to warrant him keeping that place, but maybe Kompany's seen something and Kompany hopes that by sticking him in from the start, he can build up a bit of confidence and show the form that he showed last season.
Yeah, Belgian Player of the Year and a record number of assists, every commentator in the world says on every Burnley game. Woody, what have your impressions been of him in his, you know, short sub appearances and then his first real start today?
Yeah, he's another one that flatters to deceive, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Like you say, he's got lovely feet. He gets himself into some very nice positions. He's got a lovely balance, but he overcomplicates everything. But that's the problem with this side across the board. I'm doing it, overcomplicates everything. Even Bayer in the second half overcomplicated stuff, went on this searing little run, and then did a wee little pirouette at the centre circle, lost the ball. Thanks for coming. And it's all this. I mean, granted, yes, it's fabulous. And watching them trying to pull all this shit off, but it very rarely comes off. That's the point. You know, and Trezor is arguably the biggest culprit of this. He does it in his own box. He does it in their box. He does it when he receives it on the byline. It doesn't matter where he gets it. He tries to overcomplicate and gets a little bit too tricky for his own good. Now, if we can somehow temper that and make sure that we're doing that at the right times, then I think there's obviously a player there. And everybody seems to get in each other's way, etc. There are like four of them breaking, and they're all trying to do weird little scissor movements, etc. And it just seems like they're trying to be a little bit too clever and a little bit too cute at times. And then it all breaks down.
Yeah, I mean, I think, it was pretty much a decent sort of defensive display, apart from a few times in the first half where they played themselves into trouble. But, in terms of like doing the basic defensive work, right? I mean, they targeted Vitinho early on, and I thought, it reminded me of a game in the Champions League a few years ago where Guardiola decided he was going to, I think he had Leroy Sané playing up against Alexander-Arnold, and City in the first 15 minutes just pinged 3 or 4 balls over the top, to try and expose him, and it worked really well. And it looked like they were doing that with Vitinho for a while. And he came through it, I think. But defensively, it wasn't too bad. But it's that final third, isn't it, Chris? I mean, it's just, there's not a threat there. You know, I mean, Foster hasn't got going yet, it seems, since he's come back at all, has he? I thought he was poor today.
Yeah, it was a strange sort of looking at that tonight, and you think you've got, obviously Trezor, who I think he's growing into life in the Premier League again without much in the way of end product, but we know he's got that at a decent standard. But you've got him up against Alexander Arnold, who 1 minute's playing centre half, 1 minute's playing defensive mid, 1 minute's playing left-sided centre back, and his passing tonight's glorious. But we all know he can be got at. And Trezor wasn't for taking him on the outside. He wanted to cut across, the face of the 18-yard box all the time. Where Udderburn, was I'm going to just drive at you and keep driving at you, which is what you want. But you got those two, and it was probably a game made more for Jay's technical ability than Foster's pace and power, really. So I'd love to have seen. I thought Amdouni was fabulous. He's just such a gifted technical footballer, but again, he's come off without a goal and without an assist, and it's just that final part to his game, really. As much I thought O'Shea did well tonight. He was maybe fortunate when he clattered Endo for the second goal, where the referee didn't go back and deal with him too harshly. But Trafford's made a stunning save from Salah first half. Absolutely unbelievable save, and a couple of other stops within that first half that prevented it being a 3 or 4 goal deficit at half time. I think he bar one kick he put out of play for half. He seems to be growing in stature and believing he belongs at this level as well. And that's a long may that continue.
Yeah, no, I agree with that about Trafford, because, and I do wonder sometimes when we say like, oh, he didn't, I think I introduced this phrase miracle saves, but at the end of the day, he's to make saves. I wonder whether sometimes we're judging him a bit by too high a standard because we've paid so much money for him and we expect him to be this absolute wonder keeper. But considering the start of the season, a lot of us after 5 or 6 games were going, should we bring Muric back, take him out of the firing line? He didn't look comfortable. He looks comfortable now. He's organising his back line a lot more. He's making these saves, and he wasn't, we know his weak points, but they didn't get exposed in terms of like the crosses and the balls into the box. So I'm beginning to feel a lot better about James Trafford. I mean, Justin, are we holding him to too high a standard, do you think? I mean, he's had a very, very good game against Liverpool, hasn't he?
Yes, I think he did. I think he's really coming into his own now. Like I say, a lot of the saves that he makes are regulation saves, but those are the ones you want him to make. I do think if you look at a lot of the goalkeepers that we play against, they do play a similar sort of game, don't they? A lot of goalkeepers are doing that, playing out from the back now. A lot of goalkeepers are going for that punch in the ball instead of catching it. So I think he's very much like in that modern mold of a goalkeeper. But I do really feel like what's happened is he's gaining a little bit of confidence, isn't he? And he's being that little bit more decisive. That makes all the difference. If we're talking about individual performances, I agree with Chris. I thought Amdouni had a great game today. Nice bits and pieces. I think the big difference today was I thought Sander Berger had a poor game today. I thought he was a little bit off the pace today. Maybe they were a little bit overrunning that midfield position with him and Brownhill perhaps didn't quite have the same grip on the game as they have done recently. Sander Berger has been man of the match for me for many of the last sort of months fixtures. But today I thought he was just a little bit off it, and I thought that was kind of a little bit of the difference between the two. He wasn't doing those driving runs forward and picking those passes out to the wide players. But I agree with everybody when they say, "Oh, De Beer had a great game on that left hand side." I mean, he made Alexander Arnold look like a chump a couple of times, didn't he? Where he just turned him inside out and just went through. Again, what we can talk about the decisions in that last sort of third of the field, whether they make the right choices all the time. But I really thought, given the quality of the opposition we were up against today. I thought I'm coming away from that game with quite a sort of positive feel. I know the results didn't go quite the way we might have wanted them elsewhere, but even so, we said, didn't we? We're halfway through the season now. Are we still in touch? Or do we feel like we're you know?
We were in touch before today, and then you look at the league table, and it is a question mark because you got Sheffield United bottom on 9 points. We're on 11. Luton are now 4 points ahead of us on 15 with a game in hand.
Mm-hmm.
And then Everton are 5 points ahead of us on 16 with a game in hand. And Notts Forest, who of course had a great win against Newcastle, they're on 17 points from the same amount of games. Palace and Brentford, 18 and 19, are in danger of getting, sucked into it. But yeah, I mean, we're on 11 points, and Luton are 4 ahead of us with a game in hand, and that's to stay inside the relegation zone. So Everton's the nearest one.
Mm.
It's 5 points plus a game. It's starting to. I don't know. Is that still in touch?
I think so. I think if we keep playing like we're playing, we'll pick up considerably more points this second half of the season than we did in the first. So I think I'm okay with it. I wish we were perhaps at another 3 points, and we could have. There's been games that we should have won that we didn't. But I think everything, to me, even after today's defeat, is still going in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the positive way of looking at it is if you just said, if the Christmas period we'd draw at Fulham and draw at home to Liverpool, you'd have taken that probably, and that's 2 points, and we've got 3 in bag, so we're ahead of the game. Yeah,
it's just annoying. As I say, you look at Newcastle, and they've rolled over at Luton at the weekend, and they've rolled over at home to. I think Chris Wood scored 3 times as many goals at St James's Park as he did for Newcastle.
That's fair.
And I only saw his hat-trick goal, but he doesn't celebrate, and that bugged the hell out of me. It's like he's a Newcastle legend or something. He's like, you were there for. I bet there's Newcastle fans who don't even remember he played for them.
They only bought him to leg us up as well, didn't they? Really,
well, a £10 million loss in the space of 2 transfer windows. That was. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, isn't it? But when Newcastle pitch up at Turf Moor, there'll be prime Champions League qualifying Newcastle, and not this bunch of fraudsters.
Yeah.
But down to 8th now, Newcastle. They've had a terrible run, isn't it? Is it like 6 defeats in 7 in all competitions? I think. I mean, Eddie might be getting on thin ice there. What do you think? Is he going to be worried about his job?
I mean, how much patience have they got? We don't know how much patience Newcastle have. Do they consider themselves a top 4 club and they start doing what it is that they have to do? But that run of results can't go on indefinitely, surely. And if you're thinking about possibly making a change, you'd be thinking about it round about now, wouldn't you? So maybe he should be looking over his shoulder a little bit.
You keep hearing about this injury list, and they go, we've got to play the same team every week. And you're thinking, well, that's what Sean Dyche did week in, week out, and got pilloried for it. But it's just, he managed to get the level of performance out of his players every week. And, they're still playing they've played 6 extra games, Newcastle, in the Champions League, but they rotated throughout that competition. So, I mean, are they that tired?
I mean, deal with it.
Exactly.
I wouldn't mind that fucking problem. I really wouldn't. You know what I mean? So
we've got Villa, who just had a terrible defeat at United, really 2-0 up and losing 3-2. We've got them next at the weekend on Saturday, And then, of course, the transfer window opens. It does feel a long time since we've had a little transfer discussion on here. So,
yeah.
Looking at it today, but also big picture, I don't know how much business we're going to do in January. But if we're going to, if the board still believes the season is savable as it is, they should be making some moves in the window. Chris, what would your priorities be? Let's say we were going for two decent signings in the January, which is a reasonable expectation.
Well, bear in mind that they were willing to spend what we were led to believe was sort of around 30-odd million euros for Ian Maatsen, only for him to say, I'm staying at Chelsea. Now, I mean, were they to go back in for Maatsen, would he come again, if asked again? With the situation as it is, I don't know. He'd probably make the same decision. But if that money was available then, you'd like to think that money's available now. And if they can I'd still like to see more firepower up front. Obafemi sort of, we don't see, a great deal of Obafemi. Jay's, I think he still has his uses, Jay. I still think he's, he works hard and he has that quality, that know-how. But he needs a bit of backup from time to time. Foster's still a bit raw. So maybe, bring someone in that department. Charlie Taylor tonight. The challenge on Salah, where he's racing through on goal second half, is absolute standing ovation. Absolutely sensational. Fair play to him. He still bombs up and down that left-hand side. I don't have an issue with Charlie Taylor. It's just that, the manager was so unwilling to play him. He has got quality. You look at that delivery into the box for Jay's opener against Sheffield United. Yeah. So I've not a great issue in that department really, but maybe we'd all like to see this modern day Vieira type come into the centre of midfield, but who that is? And I'm talking to Craig Salmon, who I used to work with at the Burnley Express, and we just think someone like a Craig Dawson type, that sort of centre half with a bit of know-how, a bit of nous, edit kick it type. He's good in both boxes. Would be absolutely ideal, really. Just to sort of steady things at the back there. But does that stunt the development of O'Shea? Or I believe is growing into things with every game. He's still Alderkirk and
Egdal. Yeah. I mean, we lost Chris there for a second, but so Chris is signing three players there. He's signing a centre half, a central midfielder, and a centre forward.
Yeah, me too. I'm signing a whole. No, I think the problem that we've got now is we're still quite a sort of experimental team, aren't we? I mean, I don't know if any of us could name our best 11 quite yet. If everyone was fit. I agree that we probably could do with some backup for Charlie Taylor. And I think the areas that Chris has identified, like the centre of midfield, could do with beefing up, and up front we could do with beefing up. But what we don't want to do is be signing sort of 18-year-old prospects in those positions and throwing them into the side and hoping that they'll swim rather than sink. I quite like the idea of Craig Dawson, actually. He's one of those players who he should have had a spell playing for us. He's played for everybody else, hasn't he? So I quite like that kind of idea that you get somebody in there with proper Premier League know-how, a player who's got a lot of appearances under the belt. Maybe not him, but somebody who knows the league, knows what it takes to organise a side in this division, can be that sort of general on the pitch that maybe we haven't quite got at the moment. But if it was me, I'd be going for a left back backup for Charlie Taylor, because I think he's had, since he's got back in the side, he's done really well, and somebody up front who can. We don't want to put too much pressure on Lyle Foster, do we? We don't want to make him the main man. We don't want to have the situation that he ends up not being able to play again, and we don't have that kind of backup for him. So maybe just take the pressure off him a little bit and bring somebody a bit reinforcements up front. But who is that player? I don't know. Those players, the players that can do that stuff at the top of the pitch in the Premier League are, a million players, aren't they? Who are they? I don't know. I can't identify one. But yeah, I think those are the areas that we need to focus on. What we don't need is any more wingers.
Yeah, I think we'd agree with that one, would we?
Is sure. You can never have enough wingers. No, yeah, we need somebody. We need somebody up front. We need somebody else in the middle of the park. Cover across the back four for Charlie Taylor, and that's what it is. It's a mixture of cover versus somebody with experience or an extreme amount of ability to be able to fit in straight away. Because we've seen, as soon as we've seen our main guys get injured or whatever, we're suddenly extremely weak. The fact that we're still bringing Nathan Redmond on as like you said, Sam, some kind of weird false nine is ridiculous. The amount of money that we spent, etc. And another thing that I might be slightly worried about is if somebody came in with a ridiculous bid for one of his young lads. You can see that Odebear before long is going to get some like serious attention, isn't it? I mean, even though Garnacho scored a couple, I mean, you can see United having a sniff around instead of Anthony, etc., and various other clubs would be quite interested as well. So I can see the fact that
maybe in the summer, it feels like it'd be a bit soon in January.
It seems a bit early. It seems too early now.
Exactly. If Collie Oshaw hadn't got injured, we might be looking at somebody coming in January for him. But yeah, Odegaard probably will get away with it in January. But he does look a player who he's not the £100 million player that we were promised is somewhere in the squad. But he looks like somebody who might increase in value. But I agree.
I think he might be in time. I think he might be. I think you look at. I mean, he's not as quick as Collie Oshaw, but end product, isn't it? The way he's taken his goals in particular. My little one. He's not quite 8, and he sat with me tonight watching Odegaard. And he said he's like a PlayStation player, Daddy. He's just sort of weaving in and out, and you can see what he means. He's one of those. I mean, Collie Oshaw. He's had an outstanding sort of breakthrough quarter of a season, if maybe a bit more to give him credit. But I said this Odegaard's just got that bit more end product about him.
Yeah, I agree with everyone really in the centre forward, and for me, it has to be a physical centre forward. I think one of the problems is that with the wingers when they're putting balls in, there's not that person on the end of it, and just somebody who's got somebody who's fast, who can worry the back four. I don't think the back fours get worried enough centrally by what we offer. They're worried about his wingers, whether it's been Collie Oshaw or Odegaard. But I don't think they've been worried enough by the centre forward, whether it be Foster or J-Rod.
Big vouch.
Oh, don't go there.
Bring him home.
Did you see that interview with him this week? I think you sent it to me, Chris, didn't you?
Yeah. It's all Ten Hag's fault, wasn't it? That he didn't score.
He didn't build the team around him.
He did go to Old Trafford and they didn't build the team around him. Strange that.
To be fair, I think Højlund's had the same problem, hasn't he? Like his chief complaint was that they didn't give him the ball enough, and I think every Manchester United striker over the last couple of seasons can have that complaint, can't they?
Yeah. So the search begins for a centre forward. Then, if we are having our way, you would think that's going to be top of Kompany's priority list as well. But you're right. We all casually say in the summer we could do a 20-goal a season, man. Yeah. In the Premier League, they're tough to come by. Those
Amdouni reminds me in a way of Stevie Fletcher, who Woody was raving about last week. He's technically as good as anything we've seen. Mm-hmm. But I think Fletcher finished that season with just below double figures. And if Amdouni could do that, it'd give the team a massive lift. But he's a good way away from that at the moment.
I thought that was that classic Amdouni today. That absolutely brilliant turn, tremendous pace, direct running straight to the defence, and you think he's done everything right. This is going to be a worldie if he puts his away, and then that poor shot at the end of it. It's just it will come though, because he scored a lot of goals, didn't he? You know, for Basel before he came, he knows where the back of the net is. It's just not happened for him yet. But if he can add that to his game, then we've got a hell of a player there, really. And maybe, you know, final thing, really, when we're looking and we were assessing after, you know, bonfire night and saying we're just not really good enough and we haven't seen enough from these players, and the transfer window was probably a lot too many mistakes in the transfer window. I mean, we could talk about things we didn't sort, but of the players who've come in, now that they've been given time, now that, you know, they've had that experience, are we sort of revising some of our opinions about that transfer window in terms of who actually came in? Justin?
Well, I think a lot of the players who've had a decent run in the side have grown into the season, which is to be expected given the plan. That's the plan, isn't it? They're going to grow into it, and they've improved. But I think what's changed the season is the reintroduction of the old heads. It's bringing the Goodmansons back in. It's bringing Charlie Taylor back in. It's allowing those players not to bear all the responsibility for.
Brownhill was out of the picture early on, wasn't he?
Yeah, Brownhill as well. He's another one, you know. So I think that when you look at the list of players that we signed in the summer, I don't know who's been a success and who's been a failure. You can't say much about some of the players like Masengo, you know, because we haven't seen them, have we? But the ones who have come into the side have impressed, I think, and have grown into it and have done well. But we signed so many players that it's hard to assess a lot of the ones that haven't had much time on the pitch. I'd put Trezor in that category as well. I really would. I think most people would say that if there was a failure in the summer transfer window, it was the players that we didn't sign rather than the players that we did. You know, the players that we've talked about before. You know, the left back, the central midfielder, the extra striker that we need. So yeah, I'm all in on the players that we've seen. I'd like. I hope. Anybody see Masengo's Christmas message to the Burnley fans?
Yeah.
Said all the right things there, didn't he? And you know, he's one player that I'd like to see more of. We all saw that YouTube highlights reel where he looked like, well, he really looked like exactly the player that we need, didn't he? He really did, albeit in a lower division. So, I don't. All the ones that have come in have done well. The ones that we've seen enough of to make a judgment of, I'm quite happy with. But there are some players there lurking in the background that I'd like to see more of. I think the big thing that's disappointed me is Alderkiel and Ekdal have not. I mean, I know Ekdal's been injured, and I think Alderkiel's had injury problems as well. But I think those two were two players last season who I thought that, you know, these boys are going to be good in the Premier League. These are going to just get better and better and better. I'm a bit baffled by O'Shea's continued presence in the side. I thought he had another poor game today against Liverpool. That second goal, he jumped into that challenge and he took himself. Not only did he invite a yellow card, but he took himself completely out of the game and left us exposed at the back. So yeah, those two, you know, those are the two that I'm disappointed about. But in terms of the transfer window, from what I've seen, it was good. But it's the players that we didn't sign that I'm worried about.
Who have you been impressed with and who have you been disappointed with, quickly?
Well, you've got to say, obviously, Koleosho and Odebear, the standouts from last year. Foster, definitely. Trafford has obviously come through his little patch. Disappointments like Justin. The Keel's been a bit disappointing. Sander was a bit disappointing at first until he switched things around, and now he's really come into his own and invariably can boss a midfield when he's given enough space. So, but at the end of the day, we're still languishing second from bottom, still looking at going down. So if we say, well, what was the goal? And it was to stay in the Premier League, then goal not achieved, is it?
Wasn't a good window in that sense. No, Chris, your thoughts on that?
Well, collectively, I think we all sort of said, we didn't understand the business as a collective. Individually, you can highlight successes, but as a unit, it's obviously not come to fruition just as yet. I think we spoke the other week about who would be worth more money, and we mentioned Koleosho, Odebear. There were a lot spent on Trafford and a lot spent on Amdouni. I think Amdouni's a super player. Is he worth more than what we spent on him at the minute? I don't know in this market. But Ramsey's obviously, he's had his injury and this, that, and the other. I'd like to see more of him because I think he's a fabulous little player. And but you go back to last January, and you half preparing for life in the Premier League, and they signed Ekdal and Alderkeil, who, as Justin said, we all thought were going to be super players at this level and develop, taking a back seat. Obafemi's had his injuries, but not really made much of an impact in 12 months, if truth be told. Foster's, were terrific at the start of the season before his mental health issues, etc. But you got to look at those two young wide lads really. As Burnley has this tradition, aren't they? We spoke like when we were putting the teams together last week. Wide men, they love a wide man. Gets you off your seat. Whether it's someone without pace, like a Glenn or a Tin Man that's got that trickery, a bit of devilment about him, or someone who's just a John Francis or something, just like searing pace, someone like that. But they've been a joy, those two young lads, and I think they're going to be worth an awful lot of money.
They are, but their progress, of course, has come at the expense of Zaroury and Benson, who we all enjoyed last year, and who are almost becoming forgotten men at Burnley. It's quite sad to see that, but they'll have to push their way in, might make an impact in the second half of the season. We'll see. Back in action on Saturday at Aston Villa, and thanks very much indeed for joining us. Hope you've had a good Christmas, and hope you continue to have a good week in the build-up to the Villa game. And we'll speak to you again soon. Don't forget to follow us on social media at B-Hole Podcast and leave us a rating where you can. Thanks very much for listening, and up the Clarets.
Jimmy McElroy to Watson.